you're a change maker and you're used to working under a lot of pressure. You may not realize how high strung you are until, like me, you actually take a few days off. I'm at the end of a few days with family at the beach. And after a week, I can tell how I'm calmer. How that high strung, high pitch, do frenzy that I try really hard to not get into still takes me every now and then. And so my reflections this morning are on how sometimes we really want to slow down and we can't. Like we really try hard to slow down, to take things easier, and we have a hard time doing that. And how oftentimes that is actually trauma. And in social justice spaces, sometimes we have so normalized it that we don't realize it's trauma. So if you think about the reactions to trauma that we often talk about, right? So flight, fight, freeze, and the less spoken ones, which are tend to mend and appease. I want to talk about how those look in social justice spaces, and the fact that I really would like to see us transform conversations in social justice spaces so we transform trauma. So, fight. The idea that we have to stand up for every injustice, that we have to speak truth to any provocation, is not social justice. It will wear us out. It's exhausting. And I would argue it's actually the fight response. An effective change maker, an effective social justice leader picks their battles, does not fight every fight. Yes, racism exists everywhere, injustice exists everywhere, oppression exists everywhere. And it doesn't serve us to fight every single fight. Speak it out at the coffee shop, and then speak it out at the bar, and speak it out. If we speak it out 10 times a day, we have nothing left for us, for our families. It's not healthy. So fight. Transforming trauma means picking our battles and not fighting every fight. Not fighting every time we're triggered. 2, flight. A lot of us are conflict avoidant. So being conflict avoidant is a way of fleeing. And I think sometimes we are fleeing the conversation thinking it's peaceful. Like, oh, she's right, I'm just gonna not say anything. And actually it's fleeing. So if fleeing is your trauma response, contrary to the first one, it may be healthy for you to exercise a muscle to learn actually how to stand up and say the hard thing. And sometimes saying up and say the hard thing means saying up and saying, hey, I need a break, instead of just taking a break and not saying anything about it. 3, freeze. And to me, these are a lot of the wallflowers, the people who think that because we're white, we never can speak up. Like we have to allow folks of color to always be the ones to talk about social justice, and we don't have a place ourselves. This is one of the things that gets most on my nerves, because I believe that we really need white people to stand strong and courageous in the face of injustice. Like, we don't need white folks who are wallflowers and who delegate to have folks of color do all the work. This is not their work to do alone, it's our work to do. And it's important for us to be willing to step up and have the hard conversations when the time is right. So the next one is tend and mend. And this is one that's especially women do most, which is kind of tending to everyone else and being in constant movement as a reaction to a trigger. And this is also one that often is fostered in the social justice space because it looks like you're busy, it looks like you're active, it looks like you're doing a lot. And so people will often say, oh yeah, they work so hard. And there's some social justice spaces in which people actually get kudos for working harder and harder and harder and not taking breaks. Well, we all need breaks. And if you're tending to everybody else and not yourself, that means your adrenaline is in override and you're hypervigilant. And there's healing for that. The next one is appease. Often in social justice spaces, we are trying to find, especially white people, trying to find the right words to say at the right time in the right way. And we're doing it so that the other person doesn't have a reaction. So as quiet as it's kept, that's actually manipulative, because if I'm trying to do it to appease someone, there's a different vibe and a different flavor than if I'm just saying it to try to express who I am and what I really want to share. And so, and I feel like because so much of our conversation in social justice spaces is around language, appease is one of those things that we really support, unfortunately, and also in unhealthy ways. So if you're trying to say the right thing and do the right thing, not so much because it's heartfelt, but because you're just scared of the disapproval of someone else, you may be in an appease reaction to trauma. The thing that's interesting about these 5 trauma reactions, right? So flight, fight, freeze, appease, and tend to mend, is that none of them are wrong. Trauma reactions are the way we learn to survive to the circumstances in our life. None of it is wrong. But what happens is that we do it when we've responded to trauma in that way and survived, we then give ourselves the illusion that we can keep using it, it'll work everywhere. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It'll make you look like, you'll feel like it'll make life look like. If you have a fight response, you'll think that fighting is the only way to fight, to work through life. If you have a freeze response, you'll think freeze is always. So it's not so much that any of these things are wrong. Nothing is wrong. They're just ways of being of humans, right? And so what doesn't work and what is unhealthy and takes such toll on our bodies is when we get stuck in the same response over and over again, and that if all you have is a hammer, everything will look like a nail. So I have a fight response connected to one of my traumas, and a freeze response connected to a freeze and appease responses connected to another trauma that I have. And so I've had to do a lot of healing work to not fight every battle, to not freeze or run away in other moments, and to not appease in every situation. And it hasn't been easy. And on days like this, where I actually take some time for myself after a week where I've been able to blissfully be in this gorgeous water and see these gorgeous rocks, what I remember is, what is it like to be back to center? How does it feel to be me when I am not fighting, fleeing, appeasing, tending and mending? And the longer I meditate, and the longer I am able to, the more frequently I can create relaxing experiences for myself and be in the center, the more aware I am of the moments that I lose it. And the thing about trauma is that it has a pull. When we haven't healed it yet, it has a certain pull. And so the pull means it'll pull us towards what's familiar. And that's not necessarily the thing that's going to bring us joy or bring us happiness. And so the more I heal the trauma, the more, with particularly EMDR work, I've done a lot of EMDR work, and and EMDR and Reiki and acupuncture, like the more I've healed it, the less the pull takes me. Because I now know what's my vibe, how I actually feel, regardless of any trigger. I know what it feels like to be me. And the clearer I am to know my own vibration and what it feels like to be me, the less likely someone else will have the power to pull me out of it. Because they never had the power to begin with. They never did. The power was always mine. I just didn't know I was powerful, and so I gave them the power. I gave my power away and let them believe, or I let them ruin my moments of joy and blissfulness. I don't give people that power that much anymore. And I'm looking forward to a world in which trauma and social justice aren't so wrapped and intertwined with each other, because I'm excited about what our movements can create the more we free ourselves from our trauma and we envision and live a life and a world that can be. Because as my niece said the other day, it's kind of nice to travel the earth because the earth is amazing. I hope you have some time to discover how amazing the earth is today. Ciao!